The idea of an effortless relationship has been romanticized for decades, often fueled by movies, novels, and cultural myths that suggest if two people are meant to be, everything will flow with ease. This belief is attractive because it removes responsibility. It makes people think that love should be smooth, automatic, and natural with no tension or friction. But the truth is, no healthy relationship is truly effortless. Human beings are complex, and when two individuals come together, each carrying their own backgrounds, habits, wounds, and dreams, there will inevitably be moments of challenge. Expecting a relationship to be constantly easy is like expecting to stay physically healthy without ever exercising or paying attention to what you eat. Effort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that both people care enough to invest energy into building something meaningful. When people ask if a relationship can be effortless, they often confuse two very different things: effort and struggle. Struggle means constant conflict, power battles, lack of respect, or emotional chaos. That is not love, that is dysfunction. Effort, on the other hand, is the willingness to listen, to adapt, to compromise, and to grow together. It is the daily choice to nurture the bond instead of letting it wither. Strong, independent women, in particular, are not looking for a man who wants to struggle, nor one who expects a fantasy of effortlessness. They seek someone who understands that the relationship requires consistent attention, but in a way that feels natural and balanced rather than forced or exhausting. The myth of effortlessness can be damaging because it sets up unrealistic expectations. When two people first meet, the attraction is often tense and things seem to flow without any work. This is the honeymoon phase, fueled by chemistry and novelty. But as time passes, the reality of differences emerges. She may have different communication styles, values, or routines than he does. If one partner is holding on to the belief that true love should be easy, they may interpret these differences as signs that the relationship isn't right. In reality, this is simply the natural stage where deeper love and understanding can be built. Growth begins after the honeymoon glow fades, and that growth requires conscious effort. Another problem with the fantasy of an effortless relationship is that it discourages accountability. If someone believes love should be automatic, they may avoid responsibility for their own behavior. For example, a man might think his partner should just accept him as he is without realizing that personal development and self-awareness are essential for a thriving relationship. A strong, independent woman will not tolerate complacency. She values self-respect and expects the same from her partner. To her, a man who refuses to grow is not attractive. What appeals to her is a man who actively invests in himself and in their connection. The effort here is not about constant struggle or pleasing the other person blindly. It is about bringing your best self to the table and expecting the same in return. At the same time, when effort is aligned with love and respect, it doesn't feel like a burden. This is why many confuse a good relationship with being effortless. What they are really experiencing is not the absence of effort, but the presence of mutual alignment. When two people share similar values, communicate openly, and respect one another's independence, the effort they put in feels natural. It feels like watering a plant. You don't resent the act because you value the life it sustains. It may take discipline and consistency, but the reward is growth, beauty, and longevity. Strong, independent women often require a higher level of emotional intelligence and presence from a partner because they have built their own lives with care. They don't need a relationship, they choose one. That choice is based on whether the connection enhances their life instead of draining it. A man who understands the myth of effortlessness and embraces the truth of conscious effort is more likely to thrive in such a partnership. He recognizes that love is not a passive state, but an active practice, one that demands authenticity, communication, and resilience. So, are effortless relationships possible? Not in the way people imagine. What is possible is a relationship that flows smoothly because both partners are committed to the same vision, willing to work through differences, and mature enough to handle challenges without drama. The effort becomes invisible because it is shared. Both partners are rowing the same boat in the same direction, and while rowing takes energy, it doesn't feel like a struggle when you are in sync. Instead of seeking effortless relationships, the healthier question is, am I ready to put in the kind of effort that builds something real, lasting, and deeply fulfilling? Strong, independent women often carry a reputation that is misunderstood. Many people misinterpret independence as a rejection of intimacy or a resistance to love, but that is not the reality. Independence is not about pushing others away. It is about building a life that is grounded in self-respect, personal growth, and freedom of choice. A woman who has invested in her own education, career, health, or passions does not define herself by whether or not she is in a relationship. She knows her worth and understands that her happiness comes first from within. For this reason, she is careful about who she lets into her life. A partner is not there to complete her, but to complement her. Understanding a strong, independent woman begins with recognizing that she has already created a foundation for herself. She may have faced challenges that required her to stand tall when others doubted her, or she may have worked hard to achieve goals that demanded resilience and focus. This history of self-reliance shapes how she views relationships. She does not want someone to rescue her because she is already capable of solving her own problems. What she desires instead is a partner who respects her autonomy while still bringing value, presence, and strength to the relationship. In her eyes, love is a choice, not a necessity, and that choice is rooted in respect rather than dependency. It is also important to understand that her independence does not mean she is without vulnerability. Strong women have emotions, needs, and dreams just like anyone else. They may long for affection, intimacy, and partnership, but they do not want to settle for less than they deserve. Because she has built a life she values, she is more likely to walk away from a relationship that does not align with her standards. This doesn't mean she is cold or unforgiving. It means she is unwilling to compromise her self-worth for temporary comfort. In fact, when a strong woman chooses to open her heart, it is often more genuine and powerful because it comes from a place of desire, not desperation. For a man who is seeking to connect with a strong, independent woman, the key lies in balance. She is not impressed by material possessions alone, nor by superficial gestures. What matters most is character, confidence, and authenticity. She can see through pretense and is quick to notice when someone is trying too hard to impress rather than simply being real. The men who stand out to her are those who are purpose-driven, emotionally intelligent, and comfortable in their own skin. A man who is threatened by her independence will likely struggle, but a man who celebrates it will find the relationship rewarding and dynamic. Communication plays a central role in understanding her. Because she values her freedom, she appreciates honesty and directness. Mixed signals, manipulative tactics, or avoidance of responsibility will only push her away. What draws her closer is clarity and consistency. She needs to know that her partner respects her time, her goals, and her individuality. For example, if she has a demanding career, she is not asking her partner to compete with it. She is asking for understanding and support. When she feels that her ambitions are not a threat but a source of pride for her partner, the relationship deepens. At the same time, independence does not mean she wants to lead every aspect of the relationship. Many strong women enjoy embracing their feminine energy when they feel safe with a partner who is grounded in his masculine energy. What they resist is being controlled, dismissed, or treated as if they cannot think for themselves. They want collaboration, not domination. They want to share their lives with someone who can hold his own while allowing her to shine as well. In this sense, strength does not create barriers. It creates opportunities for a deeper, more equal partnership. One of the greatest misunderstandings is the belief that independent women don't need love. In truth, they crave love just as much as anyone else, perhaps even more deeply, because they know its value. They are selective not because they are cold, but because they refuse to dilute their lives with a relationship that doesn't inspire them. They understand that love should be a partnership of equals, a space where both people grow stronger together without losing themselves in the process. Ultimately, to understand a strong, independent woman is to recognize that her independence is not an obstacle but an invitation. It is an invitation to rise to her level of self-awareness, to bring authenticity to the relationship, and to build something that is based on mutual respect. She does not need someone to take care of her, but she welcomes someone who wants to walk beside her. She values strength in others because she has cultivated it in herself. When two people of strength and independence come together, the relationship does not feel like a burden. It feels like freedom shared. It becomes a bond where both partners can thrive as individuals while creating a life together that is far richer than what either could have built alone. When it comes to attraction and long-term relationships, one of the most powerful dynamics at play is the balance of masculine and feminine energy. This isn't about gender roles in a rigid or outdated sense, but about the natural energies that exist within people and how those energies interact. Every individual carries a blend of both, but often one energy is more dominant. Understanding how these forces work is essential to creating passion, respect, and harmony in a relationship, especially when one partner is a strong, independent woman. Masculine energy is often associated with direction, purpose, stability, and leadership. It thrives on clarity, goals, and a sense of mission. When someone is grounded in their masculine energy, they bring a sense of certainty and security into the relationship. Feminine energy, on the other hand, is linked to flow, creativity, intuition, and emotional connection. It values presence, nurturing, and the beauty of the moment. Neither energy is better than the other. In fact, they are complementary forces, and when they come together in a balanced way, they create magnetic attraction and emotional depth. In relationships, polarity is what sparks chemistry. A strong, independent woman may carry both masculine and feminine qualities. She might be highly driven, focused, and capable, traits often seen as masculine in nature, but she also desires a safe space where she can relax into her feminine side. The key is not about suppressing one energy or exaggerating the other, but about finding balance. A man who is solid in his masculine energy gives her the freedom to step into her feminine without fear of being judged, controlled, or dismissed. This doesn't mean he dominates her, it means he provides a steady presence that allows her to express her softness, playfulness, and vulnerability. Many men misunderstand this dynamic and believe that a strong woman doesn't want to lean into her feminine. They assume she wants to always take the lead or maintain control. The truth is often the opposite. Many independent women are looking for a partner who is strong enough to let them drop the constant need for control and simply be. She spends much of her daily life in her masculine, making decisions, setting goals, and pushing forward. In her relationship, she craves the freedom to let go, to feel supported, and to connect emotionally. If a man lacks masculine grounding, she may feel she has no choice but to keep carrying that weight, which creates imbalance and eventually disconnection. On the other hand, men who misunderstand polarity sometimes go too far in trying to dominate or control. They think masculine energy is about overpowering or leading without regard for the woman's voice. That is not true strength, that is insecurity disguised as leadership. True masculine energy is about direction without rigidity, strength without arrogance, and confidence without control. It is about being firm in purpose while also being deeply attuned to the needs of the relationship. This kind of energy allows the woman to feel safe, not suppressed. The interplay of masculine and feminine energy also affects intimacy. Attraction fades when both partners are stuck in the same polarity. For instance, if both are operating heavily in their masculine, the relationship may feel more like a business partnership than a romance. If both are deep in their feminine, the relationship may feel warm but lack direction or structure. Polarity creates the spark that keeps passion alive. A man embracing his masculine presence naturally awakens a woman's feminine radiance, and vice versa. This doesn't mean people must always stay in one role. It's about understanding when to lean into one energy and when to balance the other. It's also worth noting that feminine energy is not weakness. It is strength expressed differently. Vulnerability, intuition, creativity, and emotional depth are powerful forces that can transform a relationship. The problem arises when these qualities are dismissed or undervalued. A man who honors and appreciates a woman's feminine energy creates a bond that is both passionate and nurturing. He understands that her ability to feel deeply, to express love, and to inspire connection is not a burden but a gift. At the same time, a woman who values her partner's masculine energy sees his leadership and drive as a form of love rather than control. She doesn't interpret his direction as limiting, but as an expression of care and protection. When both partners recognize and respect the power of each other's energy, they move from competition to collaboration, from tension to harmony. Ultimately, the role of masculine and feminine energy in relationships is about creating flow. When both energies are acknowledged and balanced, the relationship feels alive, natural, and magnetic. A strong, independent woman doesn't need a man to lead every aspect of her life, but she does appreciate a partner who is unshakable in his sense of self, someone who can stand firm while also embracing her freedom. In this dynamic, she doesn't lose her independence, and he doesn't lose his identity. Instead, they enhance one another. Their differences stop being a source of conflict and become the very spark that keeps the relationship exciting and deeply fulfilling. One of the most overlooked aspects of building a healthy relationship, especially with a strong and independent woman, is the role of communication and boundaries. Many people assume love alone is enough, but without clear communication and respect for personal boundaries, even the strongest attraction can turn into confusion, frustration, and resentment. Communication is the bridge that allows two individuals to understand each other's needs, fears, and desires, while boundaries are the guidelines that ensure respect and individuality are preserved. Together, they create a framework where love can grow without either partner losing their sense of self. Strong, independent women in particular value directness and honesty. Because they have cultivated a life that is grounded in self-respect, they don't want to waste time with games, mixed signals, or manipulative behavior. She is not impressed by a man who avoids difficult conversations or hides behind vague answers. What wins her trust is a partner who can communicate with clarity, even when the topic is uncomfortable. For example, if he feels uncertain about the direction of the relationship, she would rather hear the truth than be left guessing. This doesn't mean communication has to be harsh. It means it has to be authentic and consistent. Boundaries are just as important. Many people misunderstand boundaries as walls that keep others out, but in reality, they are more like doors and fences that define where one person ends and the other begins. A boundary is not a rejection, it is a declaration of self respect. When a woman communicates her boundaries, whether it's needing time for herself, not tolerating disrespect, or prioritizing her career, it doesn't mean she is being difficult. It means she knows what allows her to feel safe and valued. A man who respects those boundaries shows that he values her as a whole person, not just as someone to fulfill his needs. The challenge comes when boundaries are not communicated or when one partner feels threatened by them. For instance, a man who lacks confidence might interpret a woman's boundary as rejection. If she says she needs a night to recharge alone, he may feel unwanted or insecure. But in truth, this boundary has nothing to do with him personally, it has to do with her own balance and well being. When he can step back and respect her needs without taking it personally, the relationship becomes stronger. Instead of pushing her away, he demonstrates emotional maturity and earns her deeper trust. Communication also requires active listening. Many people believe they are good communicators because they can express themselves well, but true communication is as much about listening as it is about speaking. When she shares her feelings, she doesn't want solutions thrown at her immediately, nor does she want her emotions dismissed as overreactions. What she wants is presence, someone who listens without judgment and makes an effort to understand. A man who can sit with her emotions without trying to control or fix everything is far more attractive than one who reacts defensively or dismissively. Similarly, he also needs to communicate his own boundaries and feelings. A relationship cannot thrive if only one person is clear about their needs. A strong, independent woman respects a man who can stand firm in his own values and express them with confidence. If he avoids setting boundaries out of fear of upsetting her, resentment will eventually build. She doesn't want a partner who sacrifices his truth to keep the peace. She wants a partner who can express himself honestly while also respecting her perspective. Mutual boundaries create balance. They prevent one partner from dominating the relationship and ensure both feel valued. Clear communication and strong boundaries also protect the relationship from unnecessary drama. Misunderstandings often spiral into conflict because assumptions replace conversations. A simple example is when one partner feels neglected but doesn't express it. Instead, they withdraw or become passive-aggressive, leaving the other person confused. Strong communication eliminates this cycle by addressing issues directly. Boundaries add another layer of protection by making expectations known before conflict even begins. Together, they create a sense of stability where both partners know where they stand. For a relationship with a strong, independent woman, communication and boundaries are not optional, they are the foundation. She will not tolerate dishonesty, inconsistency, or disrespect for her needs. At the same time, she deeply values a man who can communicate openly, respect her space, and also define his own standards. This dynamic builds mutual respect. It prevents the relationship from devolving into power struggles and instead turns it into a partnership where both people feel safe to be their authentic selves. Ultimately, communication and boundaries are about freedom. They free both partners from guessing games, from hidden resentments, and from unnecessary conflict. They allow two individuals to grow together while still honoring their individuality. When a man and a woman can communicate honestly and respect boundaries, love feels less like a battlefield and more like a sanctuary. It becomes a space where both can thrive, not by losing themselves, but by bringing their full selves into the relationship without fear. And for a strong, independent woman, that is not just desirable, it is essential. When people talk about wanting an effortless relationship, what they are usually longing for is a connection that feels natural, secure, and free from constant conflict. But the truth is, such a flow does not come from luck or perfect compatibility alone. It comes from the inner work each person has done before and during the relationship. Without that foundation, even the strongest attraction will eventually collapse under the weight of insecurity, unresolved wounds, and unconscious patterns. The flow that feels effortless is actually the result of personal responsibility, self-awareness, and growth. Inner work begins with knowing yourself. Many people enter relationships without a clear understanding of their own needs, fears, and triggers. They expect their partner to make them whole, to heal their pain, or to provide the happiness they lack within themselves. This is a heavy burden to place on any relationship and almost always leads to disappointment. A strong, independent woman, for example, will quickly recognize when a man is relying on her for validation or a sense of identity. Rather than feeling inspired, she will feel drained because she already carries her own responsibilities and does not want to carry his as well. The effortless flow she seeks comes from a partner who has done his inner work and who shows up already whole. Inner work also means facing insecurities. Everyone has doubts about their worth, their abilities, or their attractiveness. But when those insecurities are left unchecked, they show up in destructive ways. A man who doubts his worth may become jealous, controlling, or needy. A woman who fears abandonment may become overly demanding or suspicious. These behaviors create tension, mistrust, and conflict, making the relationship feel like a constant struggle. On the other hand, when someone confronts their insecurities head on through self reflection therapy or personal growth, they become less reactive. They stop projecting their fears onto their partner and begin to show up with calm confidence. This creates space for love to flow without being blocked by fear. Another key aspect of inner work is emotional regulation. No matter how compatible two people are, disagreements will arise. What matters is not whether conflict exists, but how it is handled. If one or both partners explode in anger, shut down emotionally, or play manipulative games, the relationship becomes exhausting. But when someone has cultivated the ability to pause, reflect, and communicate calmly, even heated situations can turn into opportunities for greater understanding. This doesn't happen overnight. It is the product of self-awareness and discipline. Strong, independent women, in particular, value men who can handle pressure without losing their composure. They feel safe and respected with a partner who can disagree without disrespect. Inner work also includes developing a sense of purpose. A person without direction in life often leans too heavily on their partner to provide meaning. This creates imbalance as one partner becomes the center of the other's universe. True effortless flow happens when both individuals have their own passions, goals, and sense of fulfillment outside the relationship. They come together not out of neediness, but out of choice. The relationship becomes an addition to an already full life, not a desperate attempt to fill a void. The sense of purpose is magnetic. A man who knows where he's going inspires trust and admiration. A woman who lives with passion inspires joy and creativity. When both bring this energy to the relationship, it feels dynamic rather than draining. Perhaps the most important part of inner work is learning how to love yourself. It may sound cliché, but without self-love, every relationship becomes unstable. If you don't love yourself, you will constantly seek reassurance from your partner and feel wounded when they cannot give it. You will misinterpret their actions through the lens of insecurity. On the other hand, when you truly respect and value yourself, you are less dependent on external validation. You can receive love without clinging to it, and you can give love freely without fear of losing yourself. This creates the kind of relaxed confidence that makes a relationship feel natural and secure. When two people have both done their inner work, the relationship feels like it flows on its own. This doesn't mean there are no challenges, but challenges don't turn into disasters. Differences are not threats but opportunities to learn. Conflicts don't spiral out of control because both partners know how to communicate and regulate their emotions. Love doesn't feel like a constant battle for power or reassurance. It feels like a steady exchange of energy. The flow feels effortless because both partners are carrying their own weight. They are not looking to be completed, they are looking to be complemented. In the end, effortless relationships are not built by avoiding effort, but by putting effort into the right place, yourself. The smoother the inner foundation, the smoother the outer connection. Inner work clears away the baggage, insecurities, and fears that block intimacy. It allows both partners to show up as their best selves, which naturally makes the relationship feel lighter, freer, and more joyful. What looks from the outside like effortless love is, in reality, the reward of two people who have each done the work to grow whole and strong within themselves before joining together. The idea of true partnership often feels like a distant dream for many people, especially when thinking about relationships with strong, independent women. There is a common fear that such women are too much, too demanding, too uncompromising, or too self-sufficient to create harmony with a partner. But the reality is very different. True partnership with a strong, independent woman is not only possible, it can be one of the most fulfilling and dynamic forms of relationship. The key is understanding that partnership is not about control, dependency, or sacrifice of identity. It is about two whole individuals coming together to enhance one another's lives without losing themselves in the process. True partnership begins with equality, not in the sense that both partners must do exactly the same things, but in the sense that both bring equal value to the relationship. A strong woman does not want a man who diminishes himself in order to please her, nor does she want a man who tries to overpower her to assert dominance. What she desires is balance, a relationship where her strength is celebrated rather than feared, and where his presence is steady rather than insecure. Equality here means both partners can stand tall in their own identities while appreciating the unique gifts the other brings. This vision of partnership requires maturity. Many relationships fail because one or both partners are still caught in ego battles. They see the relationship as a stage to prove superiority rather than a space to build unity. With a strong, independent woman, those games do not last long. She will not tolerate manipulation, control, or immaturity. But for a man who is confident in himself and grounded in his purpose, her independence is not a threat, it is an inspiration. Instead of competing with her strength, he values it. Instead of shrinking under her independence, he complements it with his own stability. Together, they form a partnership where neither needs to dim their light for the other to shine. One of the most beautiful aspects of true partnership is that it allows both people to grow. In lesser relationships, one partner often feels stifled or held back. Dreams are sacrificed to keep the peace, or ambitions are diminished to avoid conflict. But in a healthy partnership, the opposite happens. Each person supports the other's goals, celebrates their successes, and offers encouragement in moments of doubt. For a strong, independent woman, a man who supports her ambitions rather than resents them is rare and valuable. For a man, having a partner who inspires him to step up, pursue his own purpose, and become stronger is equally transformative. Instead of draining each other, they energize one another. True partnership also requires vulnerability. Strength and independence are not walls against intimacy, they are the foundation for it. When two people know who they are and respect themselves, they can open up without fear of losing their identity. They can be vulnerable without feeling weak. A strong woman is capable of being deeply loving and affectionate when she feels safe with a man who honors her heart. A strong man can share his fears and struggles without feeling emasculated when he knows his partner respects his humanity. This mutual vulnerability creates a bond far deeper than surface attraction. It builds trust, intimacy, and a love that endures through challenges. Another element of true partnership is the shared vision. Relationships are not just about attraction, they are about alignment. Two people moving in completely different directions will eventually drift apart, no matter how much chemistry they share. But when partners share core values and long-term goals, they build a foundation that can withstand the ups and downs of life. A strong, independent woman is not looking for someone to control her path, but she does want someone who is walking toward a similar destination. Together, they can create a vision for their life that includes mutual growth, adventure, and purpose. It is also important to recognize that true partnership does not mean the absence of conflict. Even the most aligned couples will face disagreements. The difference is in how they handle them. Instead of attacking, withdrawing, or trying to win, partners in a healthy relationship approach conflict as teammates. They ask, "How can we solve this together?" rather than, "How can I prove I'm right?" This attitude shifts conflict from being destructive to being constructive. It strengthens the bond rather than eroding it. Ultimately, the possibility of true partnership with a strong, independent woman is not only possible, it is within reach for anyone willing to rise to the level of maturity, self-awareness, and emotional strength that such a relationship requires. It demands a willingness to let go of ego battles, to embrace vulnerability, and to celebrate each other's individuality. It calls for two people who are already whole on their own but choose to come together not out of need, but out of genuine desire. When that happens, the relationship feels less like a battlefield and more like a shared journey. It is not about one leading while the other follows, nor about one giving while the other takes. It is about walking side by side, supporting, inspiring, and challenging each other to become the best versions of themselves. So this is what true partnership looks like, not effortless in the sense of no work, but effortless in the sense of natural flow, because both partners have done the inner work to show up fully. For those who embrace this path, the answer to whether an easy and fulfilling relationship with a strong, independent woman is possible becomes clear. Yes, not only possible, but one of the most rewarding experiences life can offer.